Okay. As we all know, acid rain is the rain of the world. Companies ran by carbon emissions have been at the top of the producer chain, making acid rain happen. The combustion of fossil fuels like coal, oil, natural gas, wood are used for energy has worsened our environment tenfold and can be as harmful as us as well. What is acid rain? Acid rain comes in many forms such as rain, sleet, hail, snow, fog that is inside of acid particles and gases. Acid deposition forms when sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides combine with the moisture in the atmosphere to produce sulfuric acid and nitric acid. It is harmful to everything that's around us, basically. Like for example, in the 1960s, it became clear that acid deposition was ravaging trees and wildlife in New York City and New York as a whole, all across New York. Soils became too acidic to maintain healthy forests. The lakes, the mountain streams, and rivers were unable to hold up the populations of fish. In Alina Bradford and Bren Biggs' article on Life Science, sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides releases into the air by fossil fuel power plants, vehicles, and oil refineries. They are the biggest cause of acid rain today, according to the Environmental Protection Agency. And 2/3 of sulfur dioxide and 1/4 of nitrogen oxide found in the atmosphere come from electric power generators. When it comes with the atmosphere and acid rain, it can occur and affect nearly everything. Plants, soil, trees, water, ecosystem, buildings, statues, us. We can all be transformed, deformed by these acid rains. According to the EPA, the ecological effects of acid rain are clearly seen in aquatic environments. So the streams, lakes, and marshes where it can be harmful to fish and other wildlife. As it flows through the soil, acidic rain can reach aluminum from soil clay particles and then flow into streams and lakes. The more acid that is introduced in the ecosystem, the more aluminum is released. These effects on wildlife in the ecosystem can and are making a negative impact on it, causing discord, creating discord amongst its community, amongst its biosphere, amongst its ecosystem, amongst its community, everything as a whole. Acid rain also correlates with climate change. Christine Fisher's article on WebMD, What is Acid Rain? It gives information on how it can change the climate. It can alter the chemical makeup of soil and water around the world, such as Europe, the United States, China, all of the big industrial continents, countries. They are all affected by this climate change and acid rain. The chemical makeup that makes up the soil, that's in the soil, some of the compounds that can cause acid rain, like nitrous oxides, and they are greenhouse gases. They trap heat in the atmosphere that can add to global warming, which can create higher temperatures, which can melt the glaciers to set off more and more extreme weather changes. Those are a sign or signs of climate change. Global warming can also make acid rain worse by speeding up the chemical reactions that produce acid rain. Acid rain can also affect humans. Yes, they can affect us in negative ways. No positive. There is a course on energy conservation for environmental protection that provides the viewer information on how to make the right decision in selecting the most energy efficient and economical choice with conserving and making energy for us. The sulfates and nitrates that come from the effects of acid rain, those can affect materials, visibility, and human health. The sulfates can form in the atmosphere from sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide emissions, and they contribute to visibility impairment, which means that we can't see far distances. For example, in the eastern United States, there are factories, oil refineries, vehicles being used that produce those carbon emissions. Those can produce acid rain, which can lead to smog. Smog is like fog, but with chemical additives inside the foggy atmosphere. And it can account for 50 to 70% of the visibility reduction in the eastern part of the United States, affecting our enjoyment of national parks such as the Shenandoah and Great Smoky Mountains, for example. When sulfur dioxide interacts with the atmosphere, it can be transported through long distances due to wind and can get into people's lungs, which it can also get penetrated indoors because of the fine particles. Scientists have identified a relationship between elevated levels of fine particles and increased illnesses and premature deaths due to heart and lung disorders such as asthma and bronchitis. And nitrous oxide can affect the ozone layer, which is in the atmosphere. And when it affects it, it comes with a number of morbidity and mortality dealing with lung inflammation such as asthma and emphysema. And to prevent these actions from happening to our ecosystems, to us, to the whole world's biosphere, the ozone, everything, you name it, we must act upon the alternatives to these carbon emissions. In Fishes, What is Acid Rain? The article also offers the community ways you can reduce carbon emissions that can cause acid rain. Eco-friendly vehicles like hydrogen and electric powered cars, those don't produce air pollution. They can reduce fuel consumption and pollution as a whole. Conserving energy meaning like turning off your electronics, using different light bulbs, and lowering the heat when you're not using it. Driving less because the exhaust from our cars can produce those carbon emissions I've been talking about, which can lead to acid rain since they spew out sulfur dioxide and nitrous oxide into the air. And using renewable energy that does not use fossil fuels like solar panels, for example, and burning better. If you have a fire, you must keep it small and only burn wood, especially if it's in cities that tend to have higher air pollution. And it's good to only burn wood and only wood, because if you use any other waste, it can increase the air pollution in your area. For our future, we must strive to push and make our homes, ecosystems, and a world a better place by reducing these carbon emissions. Acid rain is just one major problem that comes from those emissions. All of us are living in comfortability, which will not last long if we sit down and do nothing, because doing nothing gets the world nowhere. and it pushes us further away from the world we envision.